The air often grows heavy when we talk about scarcity. It is as if the weight of an invisible fog lingers around us, pressing into our thoughts, shaping our emotions, and distorting our sense of possibility. For many, this fog feels permanent, like a condition written into the very fabric of their identity. Yet what if this heaviness were not an unchangeable reality, but a pattern, something learned, rehearsed, and therefore possible to dissolve? This is where our journey begins, not with the denial of scarcity, but with the recognition that it is a state we can release, a field we can walk out of, if only we are willing to step into a different frequency. When you reflect on your own life, have you noticed how often lack feels louder than presence? Bills, responsibilities, broken promises, these are the echoes of scarcity. They consume the mind's bandwidth until gratitude and creativity barely whisper in the background. The cycle deepens because the body learns the chemistry of fear and stress, replaying it like a well-worn song. This is why abundance often feels unreachable, not because it does not exist, but because the nervous system has been trained to mistrust expansion. To break free in record time is not about shortcuts or miracles. It is about shifting the internal rhythm, re-educating your body to feel safe in prosperity, and aligning your inner dialogue with the vast field of possibilities that has always been around you. This introduction is not a promise of instant wealth, nor a simplistic slogan. Instead, it is an invitation to rediscover the architecture of your inner world. Here, science meets spirituality in a practical union. Thinkers like Joe Dispenza remind us that coherence between the heart and the mind creates measurable changes in our biology, while Bruce Lipton shows how belief systems alter the very expression of our genes. Together, their insights reveal that prosperity is not an abstract idea, but a tangible state we cultivate through repetition, presence, and trust. If scarcity is a fog, then the practices ahead are lanterns, guiding you step by step toward clarity, reminding you that abundance is not only possible, it is natural. This is the beginning of your liberation and the activation of what I call the frequency protocol, a living path into prosperity that begins within and radiates outward. There are moments when scarcity does not simply appear as a lack of money, opportunities, or support, but as a shadow that seems to live inside the very rhythm of our daily lives. It shapes the way we breathe, the way we see the future, and the way we speak to ourselves in silence. It is not merely an external condition, but an internalized state of being, and that is what makes it so powerful and so persistent. To liberate yourself from scarcity in record time, it is necessary to understand it as more than a set of circumstances. It is a frequency, a pattern of energy and thought that binds you to the same outcomes again and again. When viewed through this lens, the possibility of release becomes more tangible, because a frequency can be tuned, shifted, and reprogrammed. Scarcity thrives on repetition. It thrives on the stories you tell yourself late at night, on the fears that surface when you imagine stepping outside of your comfort zone, on the hesitations that keep you from making choices aligned with your greater vision. These repeated impressions carve grooves in the subconscious, and the body responds faithfully, producing the chemistry of anxiety, worry, and hypervigilance. The nervous system becomes an instrument tuned to scarcity, and every new opportunity is filtered through this narrow bandwidth. What many do not realize is that the human body and mind are not fixed instruments. They are adaptable, responsive, and capable of new songs when given new instructions. The first step toward freedom is not to fight scarcity as an enemy, but to see it as a habit, a pattern that can be interrupted and replaced. To explore this idea more deeply, imagine scarcity as a language. It has its own vocabulary, words of fear, phrases of limitation, and grammar built on the belief that resources are always running out. Every time you speak this language internally, you reinforce its syntax in your subconscious mind. But like any language, it can be unlearned and another can be mastered. The language of abundance is structured differently. It speaks of sufficiency, of timing, of possibilities still hidden but already in motion. Transitioning from one to the other does not happen by repeating empty affirmations. It happens by feeling and embodying new sentences until your inner dialogue begins to sound like trust instead of despair. The key lies in coherence. Scarcity fragments you. It pulls the mind in one direction, the heart in another, and the body into a state of tension. This fragmentation weakens not only your emotional strength, but your ability to perceive opportunities clearly. Abundance, in contrast, is coherence. It is the alignment of thought, emotion, and body into a unified field of presence. Dr. Joe Dispenza has long explained how the heart and brain, when synchronized, generate a coherent electromagnetic field that influences not just our biology, but our perception of reality. In a coherent state, you begin to notice possibilities you would otherwise overlook, and decisions that once felt overwhelming become manageable, even natural. This is the soil where prosperity grows, not in the external chase for more, but in the inner cultivation of coherence. Bruce Lipton adds another dimension to this understanding. His work in epigenetics demonstrates that our environment does not solely dictate our destiny. Rather, our beliefs shape the internal environment that dictates how our very cells express themselves. Scarcity is not encoded in your DNA. It is encoded in your perception, and perception is malleable. When you change the story you live inside, you literally change the signals your body sends to itself, creating new biochemical conditions that support clarity, resilience, and growth. In practical terms, this means that the shift out of scarcity is not a mystical leap, but a biological and psychological recalibration. The body learns to feel safe in states of openness, and the subconscious begins to support, rather than sabotage, your desire for prosperity. Think of the nervous system as a guardian at the gates of your possibilities. When trained by scarcity, it perceives expansion as dangerous. A new job offer, a higher price for your services, a deeper relationship, all of these can trigger contraction, as though growth were a threat. To liberate yourself, you must re-educate this guardian, showing it that prosperity is not an intruder, but a guest you are capable of hosting. This re-education requires gentle but consistent exposure, breathing into relaxation while imagining abundance, practicing calmness while speaking about money, holding your body in an open posture during decision-making. Each repetition tells the nervous system, this is safe, this is familiar, this is home. Over time, prosperity stops feeling like an invasion and starts feeling like the natural state it truly is. This brings us to the frequency protocol, the guiding framework of this journey. Hey, protocol is not a slogan. It is a set of practices repeated until they become embodied truth. The frequency protocol is about shifting from scarcity's vibration to abundance's resonance through deliberate micro-rituals. These rituals are deceptively simple: conscious breathing, honest acknowledgement of current circumstances without judgment, envisioning realistic next steps infused with calm intention, and creating small, repeatable acts of courage. Each one acts like a tuning fork, gradually recalibrating your frequency. The goal is not perfection, but progression, because consistency is what imprints new patterns into your subconscious. It is important to acknowledge the pain of scarcity, not bypass it. Many teachings make the mistake of treating scarcity as something to deny or suppress, but denial only deepens its grip. The truth is that scarcity hurts. It breeds shame, tension, and self-doubt. To begin the journey of liberation, you must look directly at this pain with compassion. Scarcity is not your identity. It is a pattern you inherited, rehearsed, or unconsciously accepted. When you see it as such, you separate yourself from it. You are not scarce. You are a being experiencing scarcity. This distinction opens space for choice, and in that space, new frequencies can be introduced. Imagine a river flowing through your life. Scarcity is like a dam built across it, blocking the natural flow. You may stand before the dam, shouting affirmations that the water is free, but until you begin removing the blocks, the river cannot return to its natural course. Each practice within the frequency protocol is like lifting one stone from that dam. At first, the flow is small, perhaps imperceptible, but with persistence, the water finds its way, gathering strength, until one day the dam is no more. The flow of abundance is not something you created. It was always there. You simply removed what blocked it. As you walk this path, you will discover that abundance is less about accumulation and more about resonance. Prosperity is not measured by the volume of possessions, but by the alignment of your inner state with the natural generosity of life. The trees do not hoard their leaves, the ocean does not withhold its waves, the sun does not ration its light. Nature operates in cycles of giving and receiving, and when you attune to this rhythm, you realize scarcity was never the truth. It was a distortion. The frequency protocol restores you to this natural rhythm where giving and receiving, resting and creating flows seamlessly. The liberation from scarcity is not an escape from reality, but a deeper entry into it. It is learning to perceive what was hidden, to feel safe where you once contracted, and to act in coherence where you once hesitated. This first chapter is not the destination, but the foundation. It prepares the ground, softens the soil, and clears the fog. What comes next is the planting of seeds, specific practices, narratives, and inner shifts that will grow into a lived experience of prosperity. And as you begin to embody them, you will find that abundance was never a future promise. It was a frequency waiting to be activated within you. There is a subtle ache that accompanies the experience of living under the weight of scarcity. It is not always loud, but it lingers like a background hum, a vibration that shapes the rhythm of your days without your conscious awareness. This ache reveals itself when you hesitate to speak your truth, when you avoid opportunities because they feel too big, when you dismiss your own desires as unrealistic or selfish. Scarcity does not only manifest as the absence of money or resources, it weaves itself into your sense of identity, whispering that you are undeserving of more. To step beyond it is not only to change your outer circumstances, but to reframe the very relationship you have with yourself and with the life that moves through you. The hidden desire beneath this ache is simple yet profound: to feel safe enough to expand. Every human being longs to breathe deeply into their potential without fearing collapse, to walk into opportunities without bracing for loss, and to rest in the confidence that life supports their unfolding. This longing is not greed, it is the natural pulse of existence. Nature expands effortlessly, seeds grow into trees, rivers carve new paths, the sun rises each day with unwavering consistency. Within you, the same impulse seeks expression. Scarcity interrupts this impulse by teaching your body and mind to associate expansion with danger. It convinces you that wanting more is reckless, that receiving more will expose you to rejection, that growing beyond what you know will leave you unprotected. To dismantle this conditioning, it is necessary to uncover the triggers that activate it. Scarcity has many disguises. It appears as self-sabotage, the subtle hesitation that stops you from sending that proposal or making that call. It emerges as perfectionism, the belief that you cannot act until everything is flawless, which ensures you remain motionless. It manifests as urgency, the constant need to control outcomes, which paradoxically narrows your perception and blinds you to opportunities already within reach. It even appears as false spirituality, where words of abundance are repeated like mantras, but never allowed to touch the body, never given the chance to become lived truth. Each of these disguises keeps you rehearsing the same small version of yourself, convincing you that the familiar discomfort of scarcity is safer than the unfamiliar expanse of abundance. Yet scarcity is not only a mental or emotional construct, it is a physiological habit. The body learns to live in states of contraction, with shallow breathing, tight muscles, and heightened vigilance. Cortisol and adrenaline become the soundtrack of daily life, reinforcing the narrative that danger is always near. This is why new thoughts alone are rarely enough to shift you. You may speak affirmations of abundance, but if your body is still bracing for threat, the message does not land. Abundance is not sustained through thought alone. It is sustained when the body learns to feel safe in openness. This is why practices of breath, posture, and presence are vital. They retrain the nervous system to recognize that expansion is survivable, even nourishing. Consider how quickly the body contracts at the thought of financial risk or emotional exposure. Shoulders rise, the jaw tightens, and breath becomes shallow. This is the language of scarcity in the body. To reprogram this language, you must introduce new patterns. Deep exhalations signal safety to the nervous system, open postures communicate readiness, and slow speech grounds the mind. Over time, these physical choices create coherence between the body and the mind, building a foundation where abundance can settle without resistance. This is not abstract, it is biology. When your body stops bracing against prosperity, it becomes capable of receiving it. At this point, it is important to recognize a truth that may feel counterintuitive. Prosperity often feels uncomfortable at first. When you have lived in scarcity, abundance feels foreign. Opportunities can trigger fear, Joy can feel overwhelming, and success may invite guilt. Many people unconsciously reject prosperity because their nervous system is unprepared to host it. This is why the journey requires patience and compassion. You are not failing when you feel uneasy in expansion. You are retraining your inner guardian. Each moment of discomfort is a doorway, a signal that your frequency is shifting and your body is learning to adjust to a new rhythm. This is where the deeper meaning of the frequency protocol emerges. It is not about chasing external outcomes, but about creating inner tolerance for the very life you are asking to receive. The protocol is built on micro-practices, breathing through discomfort, naming situations without judgment, rehearsing calm responses to imagined opportunities that gradually expand your capacity. As you repeat these practices, your subconscious learns a new story. Prosperity is not unsafe. Abundance is not punishment. Expansion is not betrayal. The story of scarcity loses its authority, and a new narrative begins to take root. A useful way to understand this process is through metaphor. Scarcity is like living in a house with windows covered by thick curtains. The world outside is full of light, but inside you only see darkness. You may assume the darkness is reality, but it is only the effect of the curtains. Abundance is not the creation of new light. It is the drawing back of those curtains. The frequency protocol teaches your mind and body to trust that you can live in the light without being blinded by it. The curtains are lifted gradually, until one day you realize that the brightness you feared is simply the natural state of life itself. When viewed through this lens, the transition out of scarcity becomes less about fighting and more about remembering. You are not inventing abundance. You are remembering the rhythm you were always meant to live within. This remembrance requires gentleness, because scarcity has been with you for years, perhaps decades. It has shaped your decisions, your identity, your relationships. To release it is to step into the unknown, and that can feel like stepping into emptiness. Yet emptiness is not loss, it is space, and in that space, the seeds of prosperity finally find room to grow. As this chapter closes, it is vital to hold on to one truth. Scarcity is not your essence. It is a pattern, a frequency, a story rehearsed until it feels like identity. But you are not the story. You are the storyteller. By shifting your frequency, you shift the narrative, and by shifting the narrative, you shift your life. This chapter has unfolded the anatomy of scarcity, its triggers, its disguises, its physiology, and revealed that liberation is possible not through denial, but through coherence, presence, and gentle re-education of the body and mind. What awaits in the next step of this journey is the practical weaving of this understanding into rituals of everyday life, rituals that transform your inner world into fertile ground where prosperity can take root and thrive. There are relationships in life that quietly shape our destiny, often without our awareness. Among them, perhaps the most overlooked, is the relationship we hold with money. For some, money is a source of shame. For others, a source of constant worry. And for many, it is a mirror reflecting feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness. This relationship is not neutral. It is alive, dynamic, and deeply intertwined with our sense of value, trust, and safety. To liberate yourself from scarcity, you must learn to repair this relationship, to transform money from a silent adversary into a trusted ally. When you think of money, what sensations arise in your body? Does your chest tighten? Do your shoulders sink with heaviness? Do you feel the urge to avoid the subject altogether? These reactions are not about money itself. They are echoes of old narratives, inherited beliefs, and past experiences that fused your identity with fear. Many people believe they are bad with money, but in truth they are carrying unresolved emotions, shame about past mistakes, guilt for desiring more, fear of being judged, or resentment toward those who seem to have it easier. These emotions form a veil, preventing us from seeing money for what it is, a tool, a flow, a mirror. Until this veil is lifted, prosperity feels like a mirage, visible from afar, but unreachable in practice. To heal this relationship, we must first understand that money behaves like any relationship in our lives. If neglected, it grows cold. If feared, it becomes distant. If mistrusted, it mirrors our suspicion with instability. And if honored with clarity and respect, it responds with reliability. This understanding shifts the paradigm from seeing money as an external force beyond our control to seeing it as an ally shaped by the quality of our inner dialogue. Every thought of unworthiness, every avoidance of responsibility, every refusal to look honestly at our financial reality becomes a fracture in this bond. Healing begins with honesty, not to punish ourselves for the past, but to create coherence in the present. There is a truth that many find difficult to accept. Money amplifies the inner state. It does not corrupt by itself, nor does it purify. It magnifies. If your inner world is dominated by scarcity, then an influx of money will still feel scarce. If you are aligned with clarity, gratitude, and trust, then even small amounts will feel expansive, and larger amounts will find a way to flow toward you naturally. This is why abundance is not about chasing numbers, but about repairing trust within yourself. Trust creates a steady ground where money can circulate without destabilizing your emotions. Imagine for a moment that money is like a bridge connecting your inner world to the outer world. If this bridge is neglected, with broken planks and weakened ropes, then every step across it feels dangerous. Opportunities may appear, but you hesitate, afraid the bridge will collapse under you. Repairing the bridge means restoring structural trust. This involves acknowledgement of where the bridge was left unattended, forgiveness for past choices that weakened it, and deliberate reinforcement through small, consistent actions. Over time, the bridge no longer feels fragile. It becomes a stable passage where life can flow in both directions. Forgiveness plays a crucial role in this repair. Many carry hidden resentments toward their past selves, replaying decisions they wish they had not made. They punish themselves with avoidance, refusing to look at accounts, avoiding conversations about finances, or undercharging for their work as a way of silently apologizing to the world. But this pattern only deepens the fracture. True forgiveness is not indulgence, it is responsibility. It is standing before the past with compassion and saying, "That was what I knew then, and this is what I choose now." Forgiveness opens the door for new choices to become possible, where guilt once chained you to repetition. Trust, once repaired, must also be maintained. Money responds to clarity and structure. This does not require complex systems or grand strategies. It requires rhythms. A moment each week to review what has entered and what has left. A practice of setting boundaries, such as deciding the minimum you are willing to accept for your work. A ritual of gratitude for each exchange, no matter how small. These rhythms send a message to your subconscious. We are safe, we are responsible, we are aligned. Over time, these rhythms create a steady flow that feels natural, like the tides of the ocean. Consider how nature sustains itself. The tides rise and fall with precision, trees release and regrow leaves without fear, rivers carve paths without hesitation. Scarcity interrupts this rhythm within us by convincing us that cycles are unpredictable and unsafe. But when you repair your relationship with money, you return to the natural rhythm of give and receive, of flow and replenishment. You stop seeing money as something that comes and goes randomly, and you begin to see it as a participant in a cycle that responds to your state of coherence. It is also essential to address the fear of visibility that often hides beneath scarcity. Many people sabotage opportunities because receiving more money or success feels like stepping into a brighter light. Visibility can trigger old wounds of judgment, criticism, or rejection. The subconscious whispers, "If you grow, they will see you, and if they see you, they will leave you." This fear causes us to shrink, to underprice ourselves, to hide our talents, to pretend we need less than we truly desire. To heal this, we must learn to stand in the light without apology. Prosperity does not demand perfection. It demands presence. It asks you to step into the fullness of who you are, even if your voice shakes at first. The repair of your relationship with money is not an abstract exercise, but a lived practice. It begins with acknowledgement. Where am I avoiding? Where am I shrinking? Where am I betraying myself? It continues with forgiveness. What choices of the past can I release with compassion? And it solidifies through structure. What small rhythms can I establish that communicate trust and responsibility? As these layers come together, the bridge strengthens, the flow steadies, and the nervous system learns to associate money not with threat, but with partnership. At its deepest level, this chapter is not about money at all, it is about trust. Trust in yourself, trust in life, trust in the cycles that govern the world around you. Scarcity breaks trust, abundance restores it. To repair trust is to remember that you were never meant to carry the weight of scarcity forever. You were meant to stand in alignment with the rhythm of life, allowing its generosity to move through you. And as this trust deepens, you discover that prosperity is not something you must chase. It is something that arrives naturally, when you are prepared to receive it with coherence, gratitude, and presence. There is a moment in every journey of transformation when knowledge must give way to rhythm. You can study abundance, you can reflect on your beliefs, you can even forgive your past. But until you establish a living practice that reshapes your days, the frequency of prosperity will remain an idea rather than a reality. This is where the concept of the frequency protocol becomes indispensable. It is not a single action or a sudden breakthrough. It is a design for daily living, a way of organizing your time, energy, and attention so that prosperity is no longer a fleeting visitor, but a permanent resident in your life. The frequency protocol rests on the understanding that what you embody consistently becomes the vibration you carry. It is less about intensity and more about steadiness, less about dramatic gestures and more about the invisible rituals that shape your inner and outer world. Just as the body thrives on cycles of sleep, nourishment, and movement, the spirit thrives on cycles of presence, coherence, and alignment. When these cycles are honored, scarcity loses its grip, because scarcity feeds on chaos and neglect. The protocol is, at its heart, a commitment to order. Not rigid control, but the kind of order that creates freedom, the kind of structure that gives rise to creativity. Think of it as tuning an instrument. No matter how skilled a musician may be, if the instrument is out of tune, the music will not carry its intended beauty. Your life is the instrument, and your daily practices are the act of tuning. Each choice, how you breathe when stress arises, how you speak about money, how you approach opportunities, either sharpens or dulls your resonance. The frequency protocol teaches you to tune repeatedly, gently, until your vibration aligns with the harmony of abundance. This alignment is not theoretical. It is experienced in calmer decisions, clearer focus, healthier relationships, and the natural flow of opportunities into your path. One of the first foundations of the protocol is the body. The body is not separate from your spiritual journey. It is the vessel through which frequencies are anchored. Scarcity contracts the body, teaching it to live in shallow breaths, tense shoulders, and restless nights. The protocol begins by reversing this training. Daily practices of breathing with long exhalations, standing with open posture, and softening the jaw or shoulders are not trivial exercises. They are acts of reprogramming. Each repetition tells the nervous system, expansion is safe, prosperity is safe. Over time, the body no longer braces against abundance, but welcomes it, becoming a stable container capable of holding more without collapsing. The second foundation is the mind. Thoughts are not neutral. They are instructions to the subconscious. Scarcity thrives on dramatization, exaggeration, and avoidance. The protocol requires a different language, clarity without judgment. Instead of labeling a financial situation as catastrophic, you learn to name it factually. This is the amount due, this is the date, this is the resource available. The absence of drama creates space for solutions to appear. Beyond this, the mind is retrained through practices of envisioning not only the desired outcomes, but the felt experience of achieving them. By rehearsing these visions with calm breath and relaxed body, you condition your subconscious to accept prosperity as familiar rather than foreign. The third foundation is action. Scarcity often paralyzes, trapping you in hesitation or endless preparation. The protocol breaks this paralysis by anchoring small, repeatable actions into your daily life. These actions are not random. They are deliberate moves that expand your comfort zone, while signaling to the subconscious that you are safe in motion. Whether it is reaching out to a potential collaborator, organizing a neglected part of your finances, or taking a courageous step toward visibility. These actions, repeated consistently, weave prosperity into the very fabric of your days. They do not need to be grand gestures. What matters is their rhythm. Rhythm creates momentum, and momentum dismantles scarcity. What makes the frequency protocol powerful is not its individual elements, but the way they interlace. The body, mind, and actions are not separate domains, but interdependent layers. When you breathe in coherence, your mind quiets. When your mind quiets, your actions become clearer. When your actions are clear, your body feels safe. This feedback loop generates a field of stability, and within that field, prosperity emerges naturally. Abundance does not need to be forced. It arises when you become the environment where it can flourish. To grasp this more vividly, imagine a garden. If the soil is neglected, the seeds will not grow, no matter how powerful they are. The frequency protocol is the cultivation of the soil. Each breath, each clarified thought, each aligned action is a way of tilling, watering, and nourishing the ground. The seeds of abundance have already been planted within you. The protocol ensures that they are given the conditions to thrive. In this way, prosperity is no longer seen as an external prize to be won, but as an organic harvest of the inner work you have done consistently. It is also important to dispel a common illusion. The path to prosperity through the protocol is not linear. There will be days when scarcity feels louder, when the old patterns resurface with force, when doubt whispers that nothing is changing. These are not signs of failure, but signs of transformation. Just as a body healing from long illness sometimes experiences discomfort as it rebuilds strength, so too does the psyche resist as new frequencies are installed. The key is to remain faithful to the rhythm, to continue tuning even when the music sounds dissonant. Over time, the harmony stabilizes, and what once felt unnatural becomes second nature. Underlying all of this is the recognition that abundance is not simply about having more. It is about being more present, more coherent, more aligned with the cycles of life. The frequency protocol is not an escape from reality, but an entry into its deeper truth, that life itself is abundant, and scarcity is the illusion we have rehearsed. By honoring the daily practices of body, mind, and action, you dissolve the illusion and step into the rhythm that was always waiting for you. As this chapter draws to its close, let us return to the essence. The frequency protocol is not a technique to master once and set aside. It is a living path, a design for being. It is the daily act of remembering who you are beyond scarcity and allowing that remembrance to shape your breath, your thoughts, and your choices. It is the tuning of your life into harmony with the abundance that has always surrounded you. And when practiced with patience, compassion, and devotion, it transforms not only what you have, but who you are. Liberating yourself from scarcity in record time is not about rushing toward material gain, nor is it about escaping the reality of challenges. It is about remembering the truth of who you are and realigning your entire being with the natural rhythm of abundance that has always surrounded you. Scarcity feeds on fragmentation, on the separation between mind, heart, and body. But when coherence is restored, life begins to flow differently. In this journey, you have discovered that scarcity is not your essence. It is a learned pattern, a frequency that can be reprogrammed. By cultivating coherence, repairing your relationship with money, and embracing the frequency protocol, you are not just changing your outer world, you are reshaping your inner architecture to hold prosperity with grace and stability. The practices of breath, posture, and honest awareness train your nervous system to feel safe in expansion. The conscious shift in language teaches your mind to speak in clarity rather than in fear. Small, steady actions build trust in yourself and in the cycles of life. These are not fleeting gestures, but seeds planted daily, and with patience, they create a field of abundance where prosperity can grow naturally. Remember that abundance is not only measured in wealth, but in presence, in trust, in the ability to give and receive with openness. It is found in the rhythm of gratitude, the courage of visibility, and the gentleness of self-forgiveness. Your liberation is not a destination far away. It is a frequency that begins here and now, in the choices you make today. As you continue to walk this path, know that you are supported, not just by these practices, but by the greater intelligence of life itself. Scarcity was the fog, but you were always the light. And with each step into coherence, that light grows brighter, guiding you to a life of prosperity, dignity, and profound peace. Now that you have walked with me through this journey of releasing scarcity and activating the frequency protocol, I want to leave you with a question. Are you ready to finally allow abundance to take root in your life, not as a dream, but as a daily reality? This is not a question to answer lightly. It is an invitation to step into a new way of being, one where coherence replaces fragmentation and prosperity flows through every decision, every breath, and every relationship. If this message has spoken to your heart, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you never miss the guidance that can deepen your journey of transformation. Share your reflections in the comments because your voice matters here, and others may find healing in your words. And as you stay present, continue watching the next video on the screen. It will carry you even further on this path of awakening and abundance.